The garage was supposed to be closed for the night, but the lights were still on, humming faintly above oil-stained concrete. Outside, the wind carried dust across the empty highway, rattling the loose sign that read Black Ridge Customs. Inside, a dozen men lingered with no real reason to stay except habit. For them, night was safer than day. At the center of the room stood Marcus Hale, broad-shouldered, calm, and unreadable. He wasn't the loudest man in the club, nor the most violent, but when he spoke, people listened. Years ago, Marcus had learned that restraint could be more intimidating than rage. Tonight, his attention was fixed on the door it had opened quietly, almost apologetically that a boy stood there, no older than 8. He hesitated as if expecting to be chased away. His jacket was thin, his jeans torn at the knee, and his face carried marks that no child should know how to explain. One cheek was swollen. His eyes were alert in a way that came from learning too early how to watch adults. The room fell silent. Marcus stepped forward slowly, making sure his boots didn't sound like a threat. He knelt so they were eye level. "You all right, kid?" he asked. The boy nodded, though his body disagreed. His hands were clenched so tightly his knuckles had turned white. "What's your name?" "Liam," he whispered. Marcus noticed the hesitation, the way Liam's eyes kept flicking toward the men behind him. Men with tattoos, scars, and faces shaped by bad decisions. Marcus softened his voice. "You didn't wander in here by accident," he said. "Why are you here?" Liam swallowed. "I need help." That was all it took. Marcus straightened slightly, his expression tightening not with anger, but focus. "From who?" Liam hesitated, then lifted his sleeve just enough to reveal dark bruises creeping up his arm. "My stepfather," he said. "He hurts my mom. He hurts me. Tonight," he said he won't stop anymore. The words landed heavy, pressing the air out of the room. One of the men behind Marcus, Cole, cursed under his breath. Another took a step toward the door, already thinking in straight lines and violent solutions. Marcus raised a hand without turning around. The movement was small, but it stopped them cold. "Where do you live, Liam?" Marcus asked. The red trailer passed the quarry, off Millstone Road. A few men exchanged looks. Everyone knew that stretch of land. Trouble grew there like weeds. Marcus studied the boy again. "Did you go to the police?" Liam shook his head. "They came before. He was nice when they showed up. Then it got worse." Silence returned, thicker than before. From his pocket, Liam pulled out a handful of crumpled bills and coins. He held them out with both hands, like an offering. "I heard people said you fix things," he said. "This is all I have." Marcus didn't take the money. Instead, he felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest, something uncomfortably close to shame. "You don't owe us anything," Marcus said carefully. "But you need to tell me the truth. What are you asking us to do?" Liam's voice trembled, but he didn't look away. "Make him stop." That answer was vague enough to be honest, and specific enough to terrify everyone in the room. Before anyone else could speak, Marcus turned his head slightly. "Get Ethan." Ethan arrived moments later, still wearing his jacket from the ride over. He'd once been a combat medic before life fractured his plans. He crouched in front of Liam, examining him with practiced care. "This kid needs a hospital," Ethan said quietly. "At least an x-ray. He's been hurt more than once." The men shifted, anger rising like a tide. Not the wild kind, something colder, more deliberate. Liam looked between them, suddenly unsure. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I can go." Marcus placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're not going anywhere alone." A distant siren wailed, then another. Everyone tensed. Marcus's phone buzzed. He checked it once and closed his eyes. "There's been a call from Millstone Road," he said. "Domestic disturbance." Liam's breath hitched. "My mom." Marcus didn't hesitate. He stood, already reaching for his jacket. "We're going," he said, as the engines roared to life outside. Liam hesitated at the doorway, looking back at the garage as if afraid this safety might disappear if he stepped away. Marcus met his gaze. "Whatever happens next," he said, "you didn't do the wrong thing coming here." Liam nodded, gripping Marcus's jacket as they stepped into the night, toward a road that would change every life it touched. The night air was sharp as the engines came alive, vibrating through the ground and into Liam's chest. He climbed onto the back of Marcus's bike with hesitant movements, unsure where to place his hands, until Marcus reached back and steadied him. The simple gesture grounded him. For the first time since leaving home, Liam didn't feel completely invisible. They rode fast but not recklessly, the pack moving with silent coordination. The road to Millstone stretched longer than it should have, each passing mile tightening the knot in Liam's stomach. He pressed his forehead against Marcus's back, counting breaths, afraid of what they might find and more afraid of what they might not. Red and blue lights cut through the darkness before they reached the trailer park. Police cars blocked the narrow road, and an ambulance idled nearby, its rear doors open. Marcus slowed, signaling the others to fall back. This wasn't a charge. This was a line they had to walk carefully. Marcus dismounted first, helping Liam down before anyone else could approach him. Liam's eyes darted across the scene. Officers speaking in low tones, a paramedic wiping blood from his gloves, a crowd of neighbors watching from behind doors and windows. "Stay close," Marcus said quietly to the tall officer, stepped forward, recognition flickering across his face. "Marcus Hale," he said. "Didn't expect to see you here." "You did," Marcus replied evenly. "You just hoped you wouldn't." The officer exhaled. "The woman's alive. Taken to County General. The man's in custody." Liam's knees nearly buckled. Alive didn't mean safe, but meant there was still time. "Can I see her?" Liam asked before he could stop himself. The officer hesitated. "Not tonight." Marcus placed himself subtly between the boy and the uniform. "He needs to know she's okay." A paramedic nearby glanced over. "She's asking for her son," she said. "Won't calm down." The officer looked conflicted, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. Inside the ambulance, Liam saw his mother's face, bruised, exhausted, but alive. When she saw him, her expression broke open with relief and guilt tangled together. She reached for him, careful despite the pain. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I try to protect you." Liam shook his head, tears finally spilling. "I should have stayed." "No," Marcus said gently from the doorway. "You did exactly what you needed to do." The moment was cut short by raised voices outside. A woman in a county jacket was speaking sharply to an officer, paperwork already in her hands. Liam recognized the tone even before he heard the words. "We'll need to place the child in temporary care," she said. "Standard procedure." Liam froze. Marcus stepped back into the night, his posture changing. Not aggressive, but immovable. "He's not going into the system tonight," Marcus said. "That's not your call," the woman replied. Before the situation could escalate, a familiar car pulled up behind the last police cruiser. Rachel Hale stepped out, her expression calm but resolute. She spoke quietly to the social worker, handing over documentation. "I'm cleared for emergency placement," Rachel said. "I'll take responsibility." The woman scanned the papers, her resistance softening into reluctant acceptance. "This is unusual," she said. "So is tonight," Rachel replied. Liam didn't fully understand what had just happened, only that Rachel knelt in front of him and smiled. Not the forced kind, but the kind that meant safety. "You can come with me," she said. "Just for now." As the ambulance doors closed and the police began to clear the scene, Marcus watched Liam walk toward the car. The boy looked back once, eyes searching. Marcus nodded. Not a promise of protection forever, but one of presence. The engines faded into the distance, but something had shifted that night. The conflict wasn't over. It had only revealed its true shape, and none of them could walk away unchanged as Rachel's car disappeared down the highway, its taillights shrinking until they were swallowed by darkness. Marcus stayed where he was long after the other bikes had gone silent, listening to the night settle back into itself. The trailer park looked smaller now, less like a threat and more like a wound that had been left open too long. Cole approached him, helmet tucked under his arm. "This isn't done," he said quietly. Marcus nodded. "It never is." They rode back to Black Ridge Customs without speaking, each man lost in his own thoughts. By the time they returned, dawn was beginning to thin the sky, turning black into gray. Marcus locked the door behind them and leaned against it, suddenly aware of how tired he was. Not in his body, but somewhere deeper, His phone rang before he could sit down. It was Rachel. She's stable, she said. Broken wrist, concussion, a lot of bruising. They're keeping her overnight. And Liam? Asleep, Rachel replied. Wouldn't let go of my hand until he was sure I wasn't leaving. Marcus closed his eyes. Thank you. There was a pause on the line. Marcus, Rachel said carefully. Child services will be back in the morning. They're already asking questions. About him. About us. I figured, he said. We'll answer them. After the call ended, Marcus sat alone in the garage, staring at the floor where oil stains overlapped like old maps. He knew the system well enough to understand how fragile this moment was. Good intentions didn't count for much on paper. Later that morning, Liam woke on Rachel's couch, disoriented at first by the quiet. No shouting, no slam doors. The air smelled like coffee and toast instead of alcohol and anger. He sat up slowly, unsure if moving too fast would break the illusion. Rachel noticed immediately. Morning, she said gently. You're safe. Safe. The word felt unfamiliar, like a language he was still learning. The hospital. Liam's mother, Anna, stared at the ceiling, replaying the night over and over. Shame crept in where fear had lived, followed closely by anger at herself for not leaving sooner. When the nurse told her son was okay, staying with people who cared for him, Anna cried harder than she had during the attack. By noon, the man who had hurt them was sitting alone in a holding cell, nursing his injuries and his resentment. He asked for a lawyer. He asked when he could go home. He was told neither would happen quickly. What he didn't know, what no one had told him yet, was that the neighbor across the dirt road had been recording the screaming for months, afraid but unwilling to look away. Or that the hospital staff had documented every injury carefully. Or that Liam, in a moment of quiet courage learned the hard way, had kept notes hidden in a school notebook under his bed. That afternoon, Marcus sat across from a county caseworker in a small office that smelled faintly of disinfectant. Rachel was beside him, calm and composed. Liam waited outside, feet swinging nervously from a chair too big for him. You understand, the caseworker said, that this situation will be reviewed thoroughly. Marcus nodded. As it should be. And your involvement last night was about getting a child somewhere safe, Marcus said evenly. Nothing more. The caseworker studied him for a long moment, then glanced at the file in front of her. The child asked for you. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't trust himself to. Outside, Liam watched the door, counting seconds. When it finally opened and Rachel smiled at him, something in his chest loosened just enough for him to breathe. For now, he could state it. As the sun dipped toward evening, Marcus stood at the garage door once more, looking out at the road. He knew the choices ahead wouldn't be simple. There would be consequences, questions, lines drawn and redrawn. But one thing was already clear that a boy had walked into their world asking for the worst kind of help, and they had chosen to give him something better. The following days unfolded with an uneasy quiet, the kind that comes before something decides which direction it's going to break. Marcus kept his phone close, answering every call no matter the hour. Rachel moved through her routines with calm efficiency, but Marcus could see the tension in the way she double-checked locks and windows, and how she watched Liam when he slept on the couch, curled in on himself like he was bracing for impact, even in his dreams. Liam tried to be small. He spoke only when spoken to, flinched at sudden noises, and apologized for things that didn't require apologies, spilled juice, a creaking floorboard, asking for a second sandwich. Rachel gently corrected him every time, but habits built in fear didn't vanish overnight. On the third morning, Marcus drove Liam to the hospital. The boy sat quietly in the passenger seat, hands folded in his lap, watching the world pass by. When they reached Anna's room, Liam hesitated at the door, afraid of what he might see. Anna looked better than she had that night, still bruised, still exhausted, but present. When Liam stepped inside, she reached for him with careful arms. I should have left, she said softly. I thought I could handle it. I was wrong. Liam shook his head. I didn't know what else to do. You did the bravest thing, Marcus said from the doorway. Both of you. The words settled between them, not fixing anything, but steadying it. That afternoon, the reality they had all been circling finally arrived. The man was being released pending further investigation. No charges yet strong enough to hold him. The system moved slowly, and it didn't always move toward justice. Marcus felt the weight of that news immediately. He didn't say anything to Liam or Anna, but he made a few calls of his own. Not threats, not warnings, just information passed along to the right people. Neighbors, landlords, employers, anyone who needed to know. There were eyes open now. That night, as Rain returned to the highway, a knock came at the door of Rachel's house. Marcus answered it before Liam could see. The man stood on the porch, smaller than Marcus remembered him, his confidence dulled by injury and alcohol. His eyes flicked past Marcus, searching. "I want my family," he said. Marcus didn't raise his voice. "They're not yours anymore." "You think you scare me?" the man sneered. "No," Marcus replied calmly. "I think you scare yourself. That's worse." There was a long moment where the man seemed to consider his options. Then he looked past Marcus at the house, at the quiet, at the absence of chaos, that he turned and walked away. Inside, Liam sat on the couch, heart pounding. He didn't ask what had been said. He just looked at Marcus. Marcus met his gaze. "You're not alone," he said. "Not now. Not again." In the weeks that followed, evidence surfaced, photos, recordings, statements that painted a picture too clear to ignore. The case gained momentum. Restraining orders were filed. Charges were finally laid. Liam went back to school, wary but determined. Rachel attended meetings, filled out forms, fought battles with paperwork instead of fists. Marcus stayed close, learning that protection didn't always mean standing in front of danger. It meant standing beside someone while they learned how to stand on their own point one evening. Liam handed Marcus the crumpled bills he'd carried that first night. "You can keep them," he said. "I don't need them anymore." Marcus shook his head. "I think you should." Liam frowned. "Why?" "Because they remind you of what you survived," Marcus said. "And what you can ask for instead next time." Liam considered that, then nodded. Outside, the road stretched on, still dangerous, still unpredictable. But for the first time, it didn't feel endless.